All right, I think we're live. Yep, cool. All right, welcome everybody. Um, Welcome to this webinar. My name is Samuel Rossier, and I'll be your host for the next hour. Super excited to be here. So yeah, I wanted to say thank you to Abhijit and the whole Adversary Village team. They're awesome. I had the opportunity to visit the village at DEF CON 30, and yeah, it was great. So if you have the opportunity, you should go. Um, I have to be honest. I tried this talk. I recorded myself, and I saw that it's not like on stage, so you cannot just walk left and right. So I hope I will not make you dizzy by going left and right with my head. So apologize for that in advance if that happens. Um, cool. I think we can dive in and. Yeah, basically cancel your pentest and purple this instead. So um, I'll be honest, this first slide, I struggle a lot to do it with everything happening on Twitter, with this whole who am I is belongs to threat actor only. So I decided to try something a little bit different there. So I said, my name is Sam. Um, and I wanted to share this message from since a while now, and finally got the opportunity. So I came from an economic background. I studied economic, never work in finance though, and yeah, I worked my way into cybersecurity, and right now working in a SOC as a security analyst lead. Super happy about this. Super happy about what I'm doing and learning every day, basically. So what I wanted to say, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And if that can help, I have this project from a friend, Ali, cybersecurity career path on GitHub. It's a big mind map, and I helped him a little bit, trying to provide people with a clear view, a clear mind map of different trainings and labs. So yeah, different categories: purple teaming, red teaming, malware development, DFIR, security architecture, cloud, and so on. So if that can help, yeah, just let's go and keep on learning. All right. So first of all, why I wanted to do this talk and why this catchy title, a little bit provocative there. But the idea is simple. There was a small success story behind it. And it was a few years ago, previous employer. We had a pen test resource available, but basically we had nothing to pen test. So the idea came up to do a purple teaming exercise instead. And yeah, I mean, the output was just awesome, just great. Very interesting findings that we would have never identified with a standard pen test. And I'll talk a little bit more later about this, but the human element was just amazing. The whole team was super happy. Especially the blue team, of course, super happy to learn, let's say, the other side of the attack. So it was great. And if that can be a tactic or a trick for you to start doing purple teaming within your organization, then that's you should try, maybe using a little bit of this pen test budget and shift it into purple teaming. I mean, why not? There's two other points why I wanted to do this talk. The first one is you will see I'm going to share a simulation plan, and the idea was to lower the barrier to entry. We often hear purple teaming is hard, it's difficult, or you know, it requires fancy gadget and tools that not necessarily true. And by doing this talk, the goal is to lower the barrier to entry and to provide you with tools and tips so that you can start doing purple teaming within your organization, hopefully. Now, the last point is the last live streaming series from Adversary Village was around continuous security testing with Private Ducky, the guy behind Caldera and Prelude. So shout out to him. And yeah, automation is great. We should all aim for automation, but I don't think it's automation versus manual, and that's what I wanted also to highlight today. So, what's in it for you tonight? Mainly four things: learning resources. We'll go through some of the resources where you can learn whether you're a fresh graduate or a seasoned purple teamer, and you want to challenge your knowledge. Then I will share some of the good resources. Even though it's not a theoretical talk, I wanted to take a few minutes to discuss the different purple terms that exist out there and what are the differences between them. Then, as I said, simulation plan that you will take away with you after this webinar. To be fair, I already shared it on my GitHub. Maybe some of you already saw it. But yeah, the idea is that you can take it tonight, and tomorrow you go discuss with your analyst, talk to your manager, and then start doing purple teaming. And the last point is we will go through the plan together. We will do at least one technique, and I want to do the next step. So how we will improve after we do the test. How can we improve? And I want to highlight some of the quick wins you can use, you can leverage in order to improve. All right. Cool. So some of the some of the learning resources here around methodology first, and I will not go through the methodology of purple teaming. I just wanted to highlight two resources. So the first one is the Purple Team exercise framework from Sites, which is a security company from the US. And it's great, it's free, it's on their GitHub repository, and it's definitely worth to read. They made recent updates as well, so really they spent a lot of effort into creating this framework, and I think it's definitely worth it. And the second resource around methodology is completely shameless advertising of my a book I wrote with two other guys, David and Simon, Purple Team Strategies at Pact. And we are also discussing the methodology around purple teaming, and let's say on the high level point of view, it's quite similar to what Site is proposing. And in terms of training, there's the mind map I just discussed. We have Attack IQ. They have a free academic online. MITRE Attack Defender. They have a path which is free on Cybery. I think Abhijit from Adversary Village did it recently and gave it a great feedback. A friend, Lessig, has his company, Defensive Security. He's also offering Purple Teaming course, and he's the one behind Purple Labs, if you know. SpectreOps, very well known. I never did, but heard good things about their training, and of course, SANS Institute, a little bit more expensive, but again, I think worth it if you can manage your organization to pay for these trainings. Then I think it's worth it. All right. Um, what I call purple flavors. We have so many different terms when it comes to purple teaming, and yeah, what the heck is this all about, right? Adversary simulation, emulation, breach attack simulation, threat informed defense, and continuous security testing. So basically, it's purple for everybody, right? Um, uh, I think it makes sense to know the differences between those terms. So maybe because of my consulting background, I like to visualize things, and I like to put things into cells, right? But sometimes it's impossible. It doesn't fit into one cell. But I tried the exercise with those terms. It can be discussed. It's debatable. The idea is just for our brain to understand that, like in a tree kind of view, the differences between those terms. So there we go. The first main one I would say is threat-informed defense, which comes from MITRE and Genuity, and they have a sort of broad definition about what it is. It goes something along those lines. Any kind of defensive effort that is tailored with information about what a threat would do. So basically, it's a big bucket into which purple teaming and continuous security testing will fall into. So we have breach attack simulation, which is more towards automation and continuous security testing, and we will see. And purple teaming, which is more a manual one-off type of exercise with adversary simulation and adversary emulation. So, what's the difference between simulation and emulation? Um, and is it really relevant to know the difference, right? Here, many people, and I think that's the approach we took in the book, we looked at dictionary definition. Even looking at this, um, you'll see the definition depends on the context in which you are reading this word. But long story short, simulation is related to something that does not exist, that is not real, and emulation is related to something that does exist or that is real, basically. So applying this to purple teaming, that would goes as follow. Simulation is performing steps that a threat actor could do, while emulation would be to mimic steps that a threat actor would do or actually did in the past. So if I take a quick example there, simulation is what we're going to do today. So the plan has a collection of TTPs, of techniques, that are not related to any threat actor or campaign in particular. Right, it's the most used TTPs, and it's if you perform the action, if you perform the techniques in order, it does not represent what a threat actor actually did in the past. And emulation would be if you're an organization from the Middle East concerned about Iranian threat actor, for example, let's say oil rig, and you want to test yourself against this threat, and in particular a threat campaign from 2023 Q4, then you would mimic the exact step of what the threat actor did in the past in order to test yourself against it. Now, does it really matter? I don't think so. If you use simulation instead of emulation and the other way around, doesn't really matter. Maybe it does matter for some mature organization, but otherwise, for most of us, it's not that important. Though it's interesting to know the difference. All right. I think I spoiled the the next slides, but because I like to visualize things, I wanted to compare those terms against two dimensions. One is automation and frequency, and the other one is threat relevance. So I did a very sophisticated study around this, and I came up with this very fancy graph. Again, we can discuss, we can talk about this. The idea is just I wanted my brain and hopefully your brain to understand the differences between those terms and to see there that, okay, BAS is more on the right side because it's supposed to be continuous, automated. The frequency is, yes, continuous. And the other takeaway from this graph is that emulation would be because of because of its definition, which is to follow a particular threat actor. It should be more relevant in terms of the threat that is being emulated as opposed to the other two. Now, we heard or we know BAS is more towards automation. Now, is automation better than manual things? Usually we tend towards automation because it's better, you will gain time and so on. But in this case, it also, I think both are complementary. It really depends on which goal you're trying to achieve. So if we take BAS, for example, it will be well suited for the objective of testing your security controls against a wide variety of threat, right? And the other two, emulation and simulation, would still be relevant because of what I said at the beginning, which was the human element. So if your goal is to grow the analyst experience and make them better understand how attacks works and improve detection and response capabilities, then I do believe emulation and simulation would be a better fit to achieve that goal. All right, I think it's enough with the academic and theoretical discussion. I will just go through one slide very quickly. I said I did not, it's not the goal to deep dive into the methodology, so I just took the very high level 4 steps of how to perform a purple teaming exercise. So first you need to collect CTI, right? You need to pick the TTPs that are relevant to simulate/emulate. You need to prepare the plan, prepare the attack procedures, cleaning procedures as well. And then you need to execute the plan and eventually improve, right? That's the goal, is to improve the security posture. So we need to find improvements. Now, the good thing with the plan I'm sharing today is that the first two steps are done. I will share at the end a link to some resources I used to create this plan, like different threat reports and so on. And of course, the plan as well. So for today, we only have the two remaining steps to do. So I want to go through the execution of one technique and see how we can find quick wins to improve our security posture. So I think it's time to grab the plan. Let me check if everything is okay. Looks like it. Okay, cool. You can see the plan. So yeah, here's the plan. Excel spreadsheet. Again, maybe because of consulting background, I don't know. But honestly, Excel works. And again, the idea was everybody has Excel. Everybody has Excel. I said I want to lower barrier to entry, so I did not want you to to have to get fancy tools for documentation, a fancy something for creating the TTPs and so on. So it's just a spreadsheet. You can use it from A to Z basically, and that's it. So we have some description, overview, some tools and malware that that are simulated in this. Obviously, there is no attribution theory and victimology because it is a simulation, right? We're just testing the most used TTPs, and some prerequisite as well. So here, mainly two machines, ideally a production domain join machine, and also a Kali Linux, for example. And just a quick quick tips here that I want to share is you should potentially you will perform one attack procedures twice. Once with all the security controls enabled, and let's say you have Defender, and Defender is blocking or preventing one technique. That's great. That's awesome. You should document this, but you should also test it without this security control that is preventing, at least to see if you have detection or telemetry about this technique. And I think that's important because um, especially in big environment, having EDR or antivirus working on 100% of your assets is super hard. Is super hard. So, what if the attacker com- will compromise that machine where the McAfee is has never worked, right? So you need to know about this. You need to make sure you have detection or at least telemetry about this. All right. Um, Now about the columns. So we have this color coding, which helps a little bit. Um, and by the way, we always say purple is red plus blue, but we always forgot CTI, right? So if the red wants to perform or simulate slash emulate relevant TTPs, we need to have CTI. I don't know if CTI has a color, but in my case, I picked dark gray. So yeah, we have the CTI first with ID. So there is 35 techniques. Don't ask me why. I initially wanted to aim for a top 20 because it sounds good, but ended up with a top 35. So that's it. Tactic technique, and then CTI and red, the procedure description, the procedure replay. So you will see we have attack procedures and cleaning procedures if needed. And then we have, and I will go through one example very quickly. We have the security controls, observation, and type and effectiveness. So basically here in this case, and just a side note, probably because of OCD, I wanted to have all the tactics documented. So that's why I have the first two, reconnaissance and resource development, but they are not covered because it's hard to detect, I would say, and there's not a lot of public CTI on it. And most of what's happening is usually outside of your organization as well, typically for resource development. So it's pretty hard, and that's why I decided not to cover them. Anyway, back to our first initial access technique, which in our case is a spear phishing attachment. In this case, we want to send some dark gate file to test different security controls. And that's where you will have to go through the spreadsheet twice. The first time, again, purple teaming, the idea is to everybody will sit at the same table and discuss. So that will be the first walkthrough. by discussing, everybody will discuss all the techniques and what expected security controls you will document. So in our case, we were expecting a mail gateway and a SIEM detection to trigger. Then you will specify whether it's a prevention control, a detection control, or telemetry or remediation. Basically, those are the high-level type of control you can have. And then you will go through the spreadsheet once again. This time the red team will perform the attack procedure and you will document the result. So here in our case, we have three outputs. The mail gateway, we were hoping that it would quarantine the email. It did not work, so the control was expected, but it's ineffective. The detection rule was expected and it triggers, so it's effective. But we also had another control, which in our case was unexpected, and it was the antivirus event on the Exchange server that also triggered or sent an alert. However, it was partially effective because the email was still delivered to the mailbox. Anyway, you can see that with only one technique there, um, we tested three security controls. We identified one that was not expected, and I mean, starting from there, we can improve, and we will see how. Okay, I will go through the spreadsheet briefly. So we have different attachments that are nice to test. So Excel file, LNK into ISO, OneNote, phishing link, and this one is interesting. So execution, malicious file, and the creation of file into C user public. It's a folder, malware, and threat actor. I think they quite like this one. And so he, testing the creation of PE file and DLL would be an interesting one to see. I think that there's some questions. I will check. We'll just finish on this one. So here the idea, you could argue whether it's possible to prevent or not this technique. You could also argue whether you can detect it or not. I think it's feasible, but depends on the environment and so on. But at least you should make sure that you have some telemetry for this technique. So something like Sysmon or EDR telemetry should help you to to detect this technique. I do believe we have some Q&A. So Great Talk Sam, just a quick question. Do you have a mind map or framework for the simulation plan apart from the Excel that could be shared? No, I don't. There's on the GitHub, there's a view. If I can go quickly through it. Can show you very briefly, but there's also a this one. So you can also read it here if you want to share a link and not just the Excel file. I added a few additional comments as well. So maybe if you prefer the GitHub page instead of the Excel, I know some people are allergic to to Excel, so yeah, definitely. All right. Will you add in future way to import simulation plan to Vector? Maybe, not sure about this. When I shared this on Twitter, there was someone who said he will do it. So maybe we should monitor this and we'll see. But yeah, good comment. Yes, hopefully you can still hear me. I just got a weird headset behavior, obviously. Cool. So I will go through quickly PowerShell and NK, the usage of some different tools like ShareFinder, PowerView, WMI execution. Today we'll go through this one in particular, schedule task, the typical registry key. Initially, I wanted to test Cobalt Strike as well because it's a well-used tools for threat actors, but obviously it comes with a price. So again, because I wanted to lower barrier to entry, I prepared the attack procedure with Metasploit. So if you fire up the Kali Linux, you should be good to go just following this procedure. Of course, if you have Cobalt Strike, you should test it with Cobalt Strike. Process hollowing, the typical regex VR32, run DLL32, credential dumping. Here we're going to test comsvc.dll, Mimikatz, Lasagne, secret dumps for NTDS, password spraying, some lolbin for discovery, AD-find, pass the hash with Metapreter and psexec, collection tactic with 7zip and certitil, RMM tool. There's a lot of them. I picked 4, and of course you can pick others. C2 with, so here is a little bit not tricky, but it's a little bit different because I just want to highlight this point. I used Flight Sim because again, I did not want people to have to create a whole red team infrastructure and set up a C2 and so on and so on. So I tried to pick a quick win. Flight Sim is one of them. So Flight Sim is interesting because it will emulate C2 network traffic. And it's interesting because it will first go to AlphaSoc API to grab the latest IOC around the malware that you're trying to emulate. So it will send DNS requests. So you will see, for example, some DGA DNS requests that are relevant for TrickBot, for example. And you will see also TCP SYN to actual indicators. So maybe for this one, if you don't want to reveal your public IP, if you don't want to go and knock at the door of the threat actor and then they come back for you because you came with a TCP SYN, maybe you want to have like a kill switch or last safeguard like in the firewall and make sure nothing goes out of your network. So just pay attention to this one. Otherwise, the rest is pretty safe. Exfiltration, rclone, and the typical shadow copy deletion. All right, I will now go through this WMI execution and persistence. So that's why it's interesting. It's because it's testing the WMI execution as well as persistence, one of the persistence mechanisms that exist on Windows. So I'll switch to the VM, and I just hope we will see it correctly. Yes, awesome. So this is a Windows server, and I went to the GitHub repository and I downloaded the 3 files. So basically here we have a payload, which is cmd file ping.vbs, and then we have the PowerShell script for creating the subscription, and then a cleaning PowerShell script to remove everything afterwards, basically. So here, just to test this, you need to make sure to copy this payload into the ctemp directory. So I already did, and we're good to go. So now I will run the event subscription. And you have basically, it will tell you that it has created the consumer. It has bind the consumer and the filter together. So just to go quickly through the subscription, what it will do. It will first create a query, which basically will check every 5 seconds if there is a process with the name notepad.exe. So probably not the best query ever, but that works. So it will create a filter first, and then it will create a consumer. A consumer in WMI world is basically an action that you need to bind with the filter. So when the filter or the query will trigger on something, the action will be performed. And in our case, it's WScript that is executing this VBS payload, right? And then the last part is just to bind them together. So I will bind the consumer, the action, and the filter, the query together so that it will work. So we just did this. And I will show you the payload. So the payload is just running a shell that will do that will write some text into a new file, and it will do a ping to adversaryvillage.org. I think in the GitHub repository it's github.com, but you can change it to whatever you want, of course. All right. So I just run this. I think I will do directly this, and I want to show you. So yeah, I will do this. So I'm just running Wireshark to show you the ping, and also so ping and DNS, and also the creation of the file. So right now, if I open a Notepad process, okay, you can see some stuff happen on the screen. So just creating the process because of the filter and the consumer WMI, then it sent a DNS request for adversaryvillage.org because the script was executed and it was doing a ping to adversaryvillage.org. When it's got the IP, it performed the ping. So that's it. And then we saw as well here the text file. This is sample line of purple text. So the text file was created. Awesome. So that's it. We did. Now, I will go through different things, prevention, telemetry, detection, to show you some quick wins we can have in order to improve this. And first of all, I just want to go through the event viewer very quickly, then I will go back to the slides. And let me just take a sip of water because I can. All right, cool. So this machine is a standard Windows server. The only thing custom is Sysmon is installed, and I used Sysmon modular configuration. We'll talk about this in a bit. So first of all, I wanted to show you WMI activity log. Where is it? Here. And here we should see, yeah, so here we can see basically that there was binding. We can see the query that we set up, as well as the command line that we're gonna execute. So the binding event is there, and that's one first great telemetry to have. We'll see later on the detection part, but at least the event is there, and it's a built-in Windows event log. Then we have Sysmon. For Sysmon, I'm going to filter a little bit with WMI event, which are 19, 20, and 21. And here we should see the 3 steps. So the filter, the query that was created, the consumer that was created, and then the binding event between the consumer and the filter. So again, that's also great. Here I will show you also something, creation file, which should be around here. I did not check the timestamp. I'm a very bad analyst. So I will show you in the slides. It will be easier. Another logs I wanted to show you. I can still do it here. Hopefully, yeah. adversaryvillage.org. So we have the DNS query. Here we have also a DNS client event. This one you need to enable. It's not enabled by default on Windows, and see it's quite noisy there. So I'm not sure. Yes, I will find it now. So adversaryvillage.org. I'm sorry, it might be a little bit small. So trust me on this, and I have screenshot in the slides. So yeah, this one though might be tricky. It's quite noisy, and I had cases where it was impacting the performance on the machine. So not necessarily recommended, but good to know. Cool. Let me go back to the slides now, and we'll talk quickly about prevention. So how can we prevent WMI event subscription specifically? So a good thing is with Microsoft, they have one built-in attack surface reduction rule. So it's called persistent through WMI event subscription. So it seems to be a pretty good fit to what we're testing, and it can be audit mode or block mode. So yeah, I mean that's definitely a quick win. Now you could think also about I could disable the service, right? And just make sure it will never worked. But many things on Windows are using WMI, so even Microsoft is not recommending you to disable the service. In terms of prevention, that's pretty much it. It's quite hard to prevent. However, there's a quick bonus I want to also show you on the prevention side is the prevention of W script and C script execution. So the Windows script host, WSH. There's a registry key that you can set for a user or for the machine to enable 0, and it will basically prevent any execution of W script and C script. So W script is the GUI version and C script is the CLI version. So that could be also a quick win in your organization if you're not relying too much on those two executable. Now telemetry, I'll go quickly because we saw some of them. The WMI activity operational log, the Sysmon event ID 19, 20, and 21. Now I just highlighted here, and let me take the pen. I think it's cool with the pen. So it's event ID 19, 20, and 21. The operation is we want only the created. So that's why we saw the creation of filter, consumer, and the binding. And that's great. It's not too noisy. Again, might depend on your environment. Process creation, obviously, and we can see here the W script being executed with the VPS file and the parent process being the WMI service executable. PowerShell, because we used the PowerShell script to set up the WMI, we should be able to see this. And one awesome resource for logging PowerShell activity is the script block logging. So in our case here, 4104. And we can see the content of the script. So basically the filter creation, the consumer creation, and the binding. So that's pretty awesome. Also, a quick bonus, because our VBS script was creating a file on the system, we have sysmon event ID 11 that show up here. This is a screenshot from the sysmon modular configuration. So I did not tweak the configuration. It's just I just downloaded from the GitHub, configured the sysmon with it, and that's it. And you can see that by default, it will monitor the ctemp folder for newly created file. DNS event, we talk about it. I would recommend more sysmon 22 or potentially your EDR than the DNS client event. And there's many other way, of course. EDR telemetry. So the background, you can see another spreadsheet, definitely a lot of Excel tonight. It's a great project that regroups many different EDR and map them to different type of events and document them if whether they can log or not these types of events. So again, you could check here and see if, okay, is my EDR capable of giving me telemetry on this or not? And by the way, that could also be a potential resource to answer the question, should I install sysmon even if I have EDR, right? Sysmon is also documented there, so I would highly recommend to check this out. And the link will be also in the resources at the end. Object access might be harder, but could be feasible. And for the DNS part, the network side, firewall, IDS might have picked up this as well. And of course, so again, this is a screenshot from another resource I'm sharing at the end. It's basically will show you the log source compared to how many Sigma rules it can help you to implement. So again, that might be also a trick to prioritize your the collection of your telemetry. Okay, detection now. Yeah, cool. So what I like to do is, of course, Sigma. Everybody knows Sigma, the GitHub repository. It's awesome, just awesome work from the community out there. They have now a website called Sigma Search Engine. So in my case, we tested the WMI technique, and I just searched for set WMI. And then I just check what exists out there. You can open the different rules, and then you check whether it can be suitable for you or not. So I picked few. I picked this one, for example, which is leveraging the built-in WMI activity event. So that's should be great and easy to implement, right? There's another one here with this time sysmon event ID 19, 20, and 21. So again, might be good. And then I also checked for the technique. In our case, I think I'm missing a 1 here. And here I have a PowerShell WMI persistent, so exactly what we tested. And again, that's a rule that we could implement. You can see here the script block logging is a requirement. So we need to have those logs in our CM in order to be able to use this rule. So this is one resource that's really like a quick win to spot the detection rules. I think if you're asking yourself the question on how to detect something, probably someone already had in the past. So we should leverage that knowledge, and I think that's a quick way of doing it. Mitocar is another repository where you can check the technique and see if there is any detection available. So CAR means cyber analytics repository. In our case, there was. However, most of the analytics on this repository will show you Splunk query language or pseudocode that then you have to translate into your own CM language. In our case, there was no pseudocode detection logic, just a recommendation around running auto run from time to time in order to spot a difference. Okay, so that's great. It's not really a detection, but could be an interesting hunt to run periodically. And there's many other. Again, I will share them at the end. Elastic is sharing rules, Splunk as well, Microsoft as well, Google as well, Joe Sandbox, DFIR reports, and many others. So I think that's just awesome, and there's so many places to look for detections. Of course, once you find your detection, it might not be uh, directly ready, production ready for your SIEM, so you might need to translate it. And here there's two main resources, SIG converter from Sigma and encoder.io, which is from SOC Prime, I think, if I remember correctly. And it's not always perfect. I mean, usually it will work. And it's funny, I had this discussion with a Splunk guy recently. He told me, and I do agree, that usually it will work, the translated query, but it might not be optimized for with good performance. So you might need some manual fine tuning in order to make it production ready. All right, just a quick bonus as well. I set up the Velociraptor on in my labs, and I had built in the tool a WMI persistent hunt, and with just one click, I was able to retrieve the whole detail about the query that was running and the payload as well. So pretty neat, and yeah, Velociraptor is awesome. All right, conclusion, the last part. Yeah, purple is awesome. I learned so much by doing this plan, whether on the blue side or on the red side. So I strongly recommend everybody to test. I'm happy to hear any feedback as well, whether it's good or bad. I mean, it's not perfect, and I just try my best to share this with the community to help others to get into purple. So yeah, I'm happy to hear about you. We also saw improvements around detection, telemetry, and prevention, but we should also look into improving ourselves in terms of how we collect CTI and how we are doing red teaming. And that's why I'm sharing also those quick win resources on my GitHub. And there is many tools for purple teaming, adversary emulation. Maybe the first step is Excel, but maybe in 1 year you want to be a little bit more mature or organized or professional. I don't know what's the good adjective there, but you might want to use a proper tool in order to have to have a more mature state in terms of how you're running your exercises. And with that, thank you very much. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was interesting, and yeah, happy to hear any questions or feedback. Okay, cool. I think we have one question there. In what ways can automation be leveraged in purple teaming without compromising its effectiveness? Oh, good question. I I'll give you an example. For example, Vect. Vect is a great purple teaming tool, and there you can set up your simulation/emulation plan, And once you set it up, you can link it with Atomic Red Team, and then it will generate one binary that will execute all the steps that you have documented or that you have selected, basically. So it helps in terms of automation, but still it requires you, so the blue team and the red team, to sit together and to discuss what will happen and what happened after you executed your test. So yeah, I think you need to find the trade-off between automation and manual effort. Elastic is getting better and better at this. Yeah, the Elastic is great. It was we've been with few friends. We've been following the Elastic journey for a while, and it's just awesome. Any thoughts on emulating attacks on cloud like Azure and so on? Looks like there's not so many resources. To be fair, yeah, I don't think there's so many resources out there. I'm not sure if maybe because MITRE has some emulation library. Maybe they have some TTPs for, let's say, leveraging cloud environment. So maybe worth to have a look. I think we have another question. Do you agree that automation for purple teaming equal commercial product and you pay other people for manual creating CTI? Either way, you need to pay for the time spent. Yeah, that's the thing. So I said at the beginning, people are saying purple teaming is hard, it's expensive, and so on and so on. Yes, I spent some time creating this plan, of course, but it's doable. If you can leverage some tools that will help you, and if you have the budget, then why not? Definitely. But in the end, you will always need humans, people, to run the tools. And I mean that's a typical problem in the industry today. That usually people think that a magic box will solve the problem, while in fact you need to make sure that the people that are running the tools are onboarded and are let's say making sure that they're working with the tool. So yeah, awesome. Just 1 hour. Let's see. I see someone typing, and yeah, okay, cool. What is the minimum level of maturity in terms of security an organization needs to have to perform purple teaming? What's your take on this? Good question. To be fair, I think as soon as you can, as soon as and that's why I was sharing this success story at the beginning. Is you don't necessarily need a very mature uh, a very mature state or very mature knowledgeable team in order to run purple teaming. You can leverage and that's why I was saying you can leverage this pen testing, which is becoming more and more compliance today, and it's not a bad thing to say. What I'm saying is everybody is doing it quarterly, yearly pen test. So maybe if you can leverage this budget and use the purple or sorry and use a pen tester to help you running a purple teaming exercise, then you should go. I'm sorry, it's like I have a 30 minutes timer on my headset. So yeah, I think you don't necessarily need a very mature state. People will learn a lot. People will enjoy, and again, as I said in the beginning, you might identify findings that you would not have with a standard pen test. Not saying you should replace with purple teaming, sorry, pen test with purple teaming, but again, it's complementary. Awesome. I think that's it for today. Super happy. I hope it was interesting, and feel free to yeah, reach out to me on Twitter, Sam 0x90, and yeah, see you around. Cheers.